Chapter 2. Alyssa. The elevator hummed as it moved up the floors to the penthouse suite. I'd only ever been in that suite to clean it before. Now, I was going up to meet a man, a wolf shifter, which might be the biggest danger I'd ever faced before. If he demanded sex from me, I couldn't refuse without it causing trouble for me. That was one of the reasons I'd always been so careful about blending into the background. Clients could demand things from female employees of the hotel, things we didn't want to give but they'd happily take because we weren't given the option to refuse. Well, blending in might be easier if my hair hadn't turned purple a few years ago. It grabbed attention, but luckily, most people assumed I'd dyed it that color. I had no idea why it turned purple, and it didn't really matter, not when I was busy trying to simply survive. Fortunately, I could avoid most stares at work since they made us wear short black veils over our hair. I tapped my fingers against the rail around the elevator as I watched the numbers climb on the panel, nervousness making me twitchy. A million scenarios ran through my mind, every single one making the panic that tightened my throat almost unbearable. My hand left the rail and came up to my neck as I tried to massage away the discomfort. I wasn't a fighter, but I was a wolf shifter. I could be a fighter if I needed to be. The movement of the elevator came to an abrupt but gentle stop and the doors slid open with a ping. I was not expecting the scene that greeted me from the open penthouse door at all. I stood there with my hand at the right side of the elevator doors, gaping into the entryway of the penthouse. A man lay sprawled on the floor, a pool of blood turning the white carpet shades of crimson and pink, while two other men and a young girl stood over him. All of them wore the man's blood on their clothes and skin. The girl held wooden bullets in one hand and a gun in her other hand. All of them appeared as shocked as I felt. I'll just come back later, I stuttered, moving my right hand to smack at the buttons on the elevator's panel, not caring which button I hit, so long as the doors closed, and the elevator began to move before that girl raised the gun at me.
Oh no.
You don't, the girl screeched and ran to the elevator in the blink of an eye, slapping a foot down to keep the doors from closing. She looked up at me with eyes far deadlier than a teenager should ever have. I watched her, noting her feral amber eyes framed by jet black hair. Her skin was so translucent I could see the blue of her veins beneath the pale skin. There was something wrong with this girl, but I wasn't sure what. She was a wolf, I could sense that, but there was something else, something so very wrong. Get out here. Don't let her go, River, the man that gave me the key card called out. Mr. Ramirez was all I knew him by at that point. I stared at him, certain my violet-colored eyes were going to fall out of my head. I can forget what I've seen here, I swear. Besides, what have I really seen? Your friend has fallen, and you all are helping him back up. That's all I've seen. I told the man staring at me with deep regret, trying my best to ignore the deadly stare of the girl. I spoke softly then, only to him. Please let me go. I'm afraid I can't. He looked at the girl, River, and at the man still standing by the body of the obviously dead man. I mean, I assume he's dead. You can't lose that much blood and still be alive, can you? I was on the verge of hysteria as I glanced at the giant pool of red around the man and the three deadly-looking people around him. You definitely can't survive that much blood loss. I frowned at the carpet, stupidly wondering what I'd have to use to get that out or if I'd have to tell the hotel they needed to replace the carpet. Bring her in here, the other man spoke, breaking into my thoughts. I glanced over at him slowly because it felt as if my eyes were moving through sludge. I forgot how to breathe, and pinpricks of darkness started to pop off around the edges of my eyesight. I held my hand out just as I began to fall. Strong arms wrapped around me as a familiar voice hissed in my ears. Don't freak out and I'll get you through this. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but I knew. Even as he picked me up and carried me to one of the bedrooms of the penthouse, I saw the body. I saw it on the floor, saw it on the back of my eyelids, saw it in my brain as an afterimage that would not go away. My wolf was doing crazy circles inside of me, wanting me to run, screaming at me to run, But he held me in arms that felt like steel while my muscles seemed to have turned to jello. I wasn't walking anywhere, much less running away. I heard someone whimper in distress as he put me down on the bed. The sound came again when he leaned down over me, his face close to mine. Just stay quiet and let me calm her down. I'll sort this out. That's when I realized I was the one doing the whimpering. My wolf paced inside of me, a caged animal looking for ways to escape, but I'd learned how to keep her inside a long time ago. That knowledge had kept me off the radar of the purely humans, had kept me safe as I worked around them day in and day out for all these years. Is your wolf under control? He asked after a long moment of hovering over me. I had the craziest urge to wrap my arms around him, to bring him down to me, to use him as a tool of comfort in the most distressing situation I'd ever found myself in before. I looked up at him, stunned at the reaction, knowing this man had taken part in whatever caused the dead man in the other room to be dead. How could a murderer be the one my wolf wanted comfort from? He moved closer, as if he'd heard my thoughts I tried to put off as my wolf's, but I knew that was a lie. Our lips were so close together I could feel the heat from his skin, could see nothing but his beautiful, engrossing blue eyes. There were dark blue flecks in those eyes, the eyes of a wolf shifter if I've ever seen any. I could almost see the glow of that wolf behind the human eyes that stared down at me. Yes, I started but couldn't finish. My lips kept brushing against his, and it made me want to do something I shouldn't do at all. I wanted to move that fraction of a breath away to him and actually kiss him. I froze on the bed in horror, in fascination, in total cognitive dissonance that left me unable to think or act. The man nodded and pushed himself away from me, finally allowing sense to prevail. I pushed myself up to the head of the bed and stared at him, pulling my knees up to my chest. What are you going to do with me? Nothing. I have to get River under control, then we'll let you go. He pushed a hand through dark curly hair, his eyes on the door that had somehow closed behind him. If I can get Enzo to go along with me, you should be out of here in no time. Enzo is the other man? I asked, then cringed. The Italian-looking guy with long black hair, dark brown eyes, and olive skin out there had a name I now knew. I shouldn't know their names, shouldn't know anything about them. Any piece of information I gained about them made it less likely they'd let me go, right? I'd seen their faces, and that might be enough to get me killed. I'd seen them with a body and their faces, and now I knew their names. I was imminently screwed, and I knew it. Yes. I'm Jace, by the way. I didn't get to introduce myself downstairs, the man set his light blue and oh so compelling eyes back on me now. I won't let anything bad happen. I promise. This was all an accident, a mistake. River didn't mean for any of that to happen. So, River was indeed the stabber then. I really didn't need to know that. I let my head sink down to my knees as my wolf continued to pace within me, a whirling energy inside of me that wanted to break free. I breathed through the urge to let her out and focused on the pain of cramming my nails into my elbows. What's your name? Jace asked softly, as if he was speaking to a child. I'm Alyssa, I mumbled, not wanting to reveal anything about myself. I had secrets to hide, ones I'd hidden away for many years. I hadn't been around another wolf in years, though. I knew I couldn't hide that from him, any more than he'd been able to hide it from me. I didn't have to act like I was something I wasn't around him, but old habits die hard. I'd become secretive living out in the pure human world. Instinct told me to hold on to those secrets now. Admitting just my name felt like a mistake at this point. Okay, Alyssa, we'll get you through this, I promise, he offered gently, his hands out as if to tell me to stay where I was. I wasn't going to get far, even if I let my wolf out. There were 3 other wolves in this penthouse, and the weakest one of us all had a gun in her hand. That made her the most dangerous. I don't believe you, I heard myself say and gasped. I knew I shouldn't antagonize this guy, yet there I was, antagonizing away. I understand that. He surprised me with that and the way he sighed. Listen, this is not what it looks like. It never is, I shot back, then slapped my left hand over my mouth to shut myself up, my eyes wide again, my pulse a loud bang in my ears. Another sigh and he closed his eyes for the briefest of moments. That guy, the man on the floor, was here to kidnap River. We thought we were safe here, but it's clear now we aren't. Why does he want her? I demanded, not sure why I wanted to know, but I was a curious person like that. Maybe this wasn't what it looked like? Maybe the murder scene wasn't exactly what it looked like, as he'd said? I can't tell you that. But I can tell you I need to calm her down or she'll make this all worse. Will you stay in here and behave if I leave you alone? Jace watched me, but I noticed now how his hand kept reaching for the door, as though he was nervous and ready to leave, antsy to get back to the death scene outside the bedroom.
Yeah.
It's not like I can get through any of you. And she has a gun. I can't outrun a bullet, can I? I watched his face draw up in a wince and knew I'd unintentionally hit a mark. No, I don't suppose you can. I'll be back, he said after a long pause and left the room. I stayed on the bed, counting down the minutes until my inevitable death. They were probably out there arguing over what to do with me. I moved when I heard them all start to shout at each other, running as quietly as I could to press my ear against the door. The voices were still muffled, but now I could make out what they were saying. I don't care if she's a wolf, Jace, she's not coming with us. Go in there and suffocate her with a pillow or something. I've done my share of killing for the day, the girl, River, shouted at Jace, and my heart hammered away at my ribs with fear. That girl was stone cold for such a young person, and it was clear she wanted me dead. If you leave her alive, she's a witness, and no matter what she promises, she will tell. We can't kill her, River. She's not done anything wrong, Jace shouted back, clearly losing his temper with the girl. Stop talking to me like I'm a child, Jace. I'm 30 years old. The girl shouted, shocking me into an audible gasp. That child was 30 years old? I thought she couldn't be any more than 16 or 17. She was definitely a wolf then, but a sick one from the looks of her. She almost looked like a vampire. But wolf shifters can't be vampires. It's not possible. Then stop acting like one, River. Jace shot back and then a new voice interrupted, softer, not shouting like the others, but still loud enough I could hear it. Look, this is my fault. The guy attacked me when I used that dating app to find hookups, the voice that must be Enzo said, revealing far more about himself than he probably intended. At least to me. You guys saved me that night, and if it hadn't been for that, he'd have never found out about River. This is my fault. I'll take care of the woman in the bedroom. Fuck no you won't, Enzo. Jace shouted, and there was the sound of a scuffle in the other room before it went quiet again. Listen to me, both of you. We might be able to get away with one murder. But two we can't talk our way out of. And the second one wouldn't be self-defense either. It would be self-defense, you'd be defending yourself from going to prison, River shouted at Jace, and I cringed at the stupidity of the statement. It was a good thing Jace didn't buy it either.
Yeah.
You can't really use that as a defense, now can you, River? Jace replied and sighed so loudly I could hear it through the door. Enzo, this isn't your fault. He attacked you, turned you into a wolf shifter. That's not your fault. It's not even River's fault the guy is dead. It's his own fault for daring to come up here to try and take her. I couldn't say I disagreed with that. That still didn't mean I was going to make it out of this room alive, though.
Chapter 3. Jace. This isn't supposed to be happening. This was supposed to be a safe place for us, as I told the woman I just dumped in the bedroom. Damn, why did this stuff keep happening to us? I dragged my right hand through my hair to pull it back from my eyes and stared up at the ceiling without really seeing it. I shivered as I brought my eyes down to the dead man on the floor. I have to figure out what to do with Alyssa, who had just seen the dead man, I told her the man came in to attack and kidnap River, and that was true. What I hadn't told her was why the man came after her. It was only fair that River had done what she does best and defended herself. She'd killed the man, and now we had to figure out what to do with Alyssa. We're on the run, hiding from those that want River to study her, to make her a weapon against all shifters. Enzo and I wouldn't allow that. Enzo. Poor Enzo. Up until last month, Enzo was a human and River's best friend. Now, he was a shifter, attacked and turned by a shifter working for the wrong side in the magical world. River and Enzo were my family, the only family I had. But I didn't want to kill Alyssa, not even to protect River. I'd asked her up here because she was a wolf, I could sense it, and I wanted to know how she maintained herself in the human world. Okay, that, and I'd felt drawn to her in a way I've never felt drawn to a female before. It was my fault she'd come up here. And now she's a witness to a murder. How much trouble are we in? I heard River and Enzo arguing on the other side of the room. He wouldn't want to hurt a woman either, even if River suggested it. It'd be a stupid move. All it'd do was attract attention to us, and we couldn't afford that. But I needed to buy time so I could figure out what to do with Alyssa. I sighed and stepped over the body again to reach for the bedroom door. I didn't like keeping her in there, but it's the safest place for her. For the time being. I tested the doorknob, knowing it wouldn't be locked, and opened the door to the bedroom. I smiled down at Alyssa, but it turned into a frown. She was sitting on the edge of the bed with her knees drawn up, her arms around her legs, shaking as she tried to cover her ears with her hands. She'd heard everything. I didn't want to keep her in there, but I didn't have any choice. I had to save her, somehow. I sucked in a deep breath and walked over to sit down beside her on the bed. She flinched when I sat down, and I couldn't imagine why. Well, yes, I could actually, I thought wryly. Alyssa, it's going to be okay. I tried to reassure her, and she glanced up at me with a blank look on her face. It was almost like she didn't believe a word I was saying. No, it's not. I'm going to die. You're going to kill me. A cold, lonely death in the middle of a bedroom I shouldn't be in anyway, she said, and then frowned deeply. Okay, maybe not cold and lonely. But I'm probably going to die. You're not going to die, I said firmly, hoping I wasn't telling her a lie. I'm not. Then what happens to me now? I definitely can't go back to my old life, she said, and I watched as a haunted look replaced the blank one on her face. Good, she was feeling something. And I don't think your friend River will let me stay here. Even though I am bonded to the hotel, so they basically own me. We're going to figure something out, I said and stared at her. I could see the hurt and pain in her eyes, the tears. They were going to fall at any moment, and I wanted to make them dry up before they even fell. She didn't deserve any of this. I can't go back to where I was living, and there's no way River will let me stay here. They're going to come after me, and this time they won't care if anyone sees them or not, she said, her voice trembling as she spoke. I reached out to her and took her hand. Who are going to come after you? I asked, but she just shook her head, refusing to tell me. Alyssa buried her head in her knees again. I didn't know what to say to her. The people from the hotel, the runaway bonded servants catchers. The men who like chasing women down and selling them between themselves, take your pick. Alyssa finally said quietly, and I felt something in my stomach knot up. I'd never let anyone take her away from me. Not even River. I barely knew more than this woman's name, but my wolf said he knew her, that he wanted her. I'm not going to kill you, I said again, and she laughed. It was a harsh sound, like a bark, that felt more like an indictment than a sign of mirth. What then? Do you plan on keeping me in here or something? As your personal sex slave, maybe? I think I'd rather you killed me than do that, she said, and I couldn't help but grin. I liked the sound of her voice, the way she said sex slave. My wolf, sleeping up until then, perked up at the mention of sex. It wasn't something I thought about, or talked about, often. No, I'm not going to kill you. I tried again. I'm going to protect you, I promise. How? She asked and looked up at me with a skeptical expression on her face. You can't protect me, you don't even know who I am. I don't have to know who you are to know that you're not safe, that you won't be protected, just walking around the city. I tried to explain. Just look at what's happened here to River. You could be killed and no one would know it. You could be caught, too. There's no way to know what could happen to you. And you saw what happened in there. What if you'd been here instead of River? Could you have protected yourself? She shivered, and I knew she was thinking about the dead man on the floor. I wanted to take her in my arms and hold her, comfort her, but I didn't dare. She was a shifter, and I didn't even know what kind. I had to respect her boundaries. I'd seen her look at me earlier, downstairs, and even though I thought she felt drawn to me, too, I didn't know how to act on it. The wrong move would scare her even more, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. I guess I'd be dead too, she finally answered me, her eyes coming over to meet mine. I saw resignation there, defeat. I didn't like it, but it was a sign that I might be able to get us out of this. If she wasn't fighting against me, maybe she'd fight with me to get us out of this mess. Okay, listen, we're in trouble and you're in trouble, I said, realizing it was the truth. She was in trouble, she was in this room because of me, and that made me responsible for her. Somehow, someway, I was going to get her out of this alive. For some crazy reason, it mattered to me that she was alive. I didn't know what to do, but I could think of one thing. It was a big risk, but I didn't see any other option. River, Enzo, come here. I called out to them, and I heard them arguing in the other room. I don't want to hurt her, Enzo said, and I knew he thought I was going to make him kill Alyssa. Neither do I, really, River said. But I think we should get rid of her somehow. Get in here right now, both of you, I ordered and waited. Finally, they both showed up in the bedroom. We all have to leave. Today. What? River asked, the blue vein in her forehead throbbing as her agitation rose again. How are we supposed to do that? We can't carry a dead body out of the room without someone noticing, you know? Is that your idea of helping? I growled at the woman I'd known my whole life, my eyes narrowed at her. I hate to point this out, but sarcasm isn't very helpful right now. And what about you? Enzo asked. You're not going to kill her. I'm not going to kill her either, I said, looking at Alyssa. I hoped she would believe me. But she can't stay here. If she does, we'll all die. We're all leaving, and that's final. Don't be stupid, River said. This is the safest place for her. If she can manage to keep her trap shut, then it'll be fine. No, it won't. The people that sent him will come here, sniffing around when he doesn't come back with you, I pointed out. We're all leaving. We just have to figure out what to do with the body. But, the new shifter started, but I cut him off. I felt her gentle touch, the silkiness of her fingers flow through my body, and almost gasped, but stopped it. I needed to be in control right now, even if I've never felt something like that from a touch before. No, I know we're all tired of running, Enzo, but we can't stay here now. I looked over at Alyssa when she put her hand on my arm. I have an idea about how to get the body out of here, she whispered to me, her eyes on River and Enzo with distrust. Tell me, I replied, turning to face her. River and Enzo stared at her too, wondering what she'd come up with. I can move around the hotel without anyone noticing me, even when I walk right by them. I can get my cart, we can put the body in that and carry it downstairs. Do you have a vehicle? Elissa asked, and I smiled broadly. Yeah, we have a van. We can put it in the back of that when we leave. Okay, you go get your cart and maybe put your uniform on. Pack anything small that you want to bring with you and a change of clothes for when we're out of here. Then we'll get out of this place. I felt hope for the first time since the elevator doors opened and Elissa walked in on the brutal scene out in the living room. River, you and Enzo take the suitcase down to the van and wait there. I'll get the body in the cart when she comes back up and bring it down. Fine. River gave a deep sigh and rolled her eyes, very much like the teenager she appeared to be whenever she wanted to. But you'd better hurry or they'll find us here and I've done enough killing for one day. I'll be right behind you with the body, I said, trying to sound confident. Elissa gave me a nod and then left the room, her head down as she walked past River and Enzo. I listened to her footsteps as they echoed out of the living room. What the hell, Jace? Enzo asked me. You're not really going to bring this woman with us, are you? Of course I am. I'm not going to kill her, Enzo, I said and bit my lip, new worries popping up on top of old ones. Elissa would complicate things, but I had a feeling it was better to take her with us than to leave her. For her own good. She's bonded to the hotel, aren't you listening? She's bonded one step up from a slave, River said, her voice rising in anger. We can't set her free. We're already in deep enough shit without aiding and abetting a bonded servant to escape. We can't do anything else, River. You know if Phoenix and his men arrive, they'll take her. She's not prepared for what they'll do to her. She's obviously been hiding in the human world for a long time. She doesn't know how bad it's gotten in our world. That's beside the point, Jace, and you know it. River spit out at me, her eyes narrowed as she walked up to me. She's only going to cause us more problems. Like we can't handle a few more? Is that what you're saying, River? You'd rather leave a wolf in hiding to the likes of Phoenix? Are you serious right now? Enzo broke into the spat between River and I, looking at the woman in deep shock. I can't believe you, River. Fuck, not you too. She started, but then stopped, holding her hands up in defeat. Fine. You both win. We'll take her with us. Enzo, grab the suitcase and let's get out of here. Fine with me. He answered and walked out of the room. Are you coming, River? She paused, staring at me with angry eyes. I could see how sick she was, how the disease was ravaging her system, and once again felt the need to protect her, to find the cure, before it was too late. This is all on you, Jace. Don't make us regret agreeing to this. I'll try my best, River, for both of you. You know I will. I said, wishing she'd stop being so angry all the time. But who could blame her? She had no hope at a chance to live beyond her next birthday. Not unless we found a cure for what ailed her. And put on your jackets to cover up the blood all over you both. River's right hand, too warm and a little clammy from her constant fever, cupped my cheek, her lips stretched in a grim smile before she left without another word. All I could do was hope Elissa would stay out of trouble and help us get out of here. Phoenix and his men would be here soon, and I wanted all of us long gone before then.